Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're breaking down some top-tier expert guidance from Grand HVAC Columbus to help you survive Upper Arlington's pretty extreme climate challenges. Let's just dive right in because, honestly, keeping your home comfortable in Central Ohio, it's a lot more complex than just bumping a thermostat up or down. You're basically in a constant battle against nature, local architecture, and, well, time. But hey, before we really get into the weeds, I want you to ask yourself a quick question. Could you be losing 30% of your home's air to your attic? Because the unique soil and those gorgeous older homes in your neighborhood might be quietly siphoning away the exact air you're paying good money to heat and cool. If your utility bills keep creeping up but you're still grabbing a sweater, the culprit might literally be hiding right under your feet or right above your ceiling. Okay, here's our quick roadmap for today. First, Upper Arlington's climate battle. Second, common HVAC system failures. Third, the professional service process. Fourth, codes, permits, and standards. And finally, number 5, repair versus replacement. All right, Section 1, Upper Arlington's climate battle, fighting the invisible adversary. You've got to look at the massive seasonal extremes that are basically forcing local ACs and furnaces to work brutal overtime. On one hand, you've got summer humidity regularly pushing 80%. That alone forces your air conditioner to run these massive, long cycles that severely strain the compressor. On the flip side, winter temperatures will suddenly drop below 20 degrees for weeks at a time, testing the absolute limits of your furnace. So your equipment is constantly swinging like a pendulum between two extremely harsh realities. And this is exactly why hyperlocal knowledge is an absolute game changer. The area's clay-heavy soil literally expands and contracts with those wild freeze-thaw cycles, which shifts home foundations. If you live in one of those classic 1950s to 70s Tremont homes, there's a good chance you have original ductwork getting slowly pulled apart by those shifts. Over by the Scioto River corridor, higher ambient humidity just aggressively accelerates mold growth. And meanwhile, those post-war ranch houses in Kingsdale often have these tricky basement installations that are totally different from the newer builds over in the Brandon area. Long story short, your exact neighborhood dictates your system's vulnerabilities. Moving on to Section 2, common HVAC system failures when extreme weather breaks equipment. So what happens when these environmental forces attack? Well, the sneakiest and honestly most common failure homeowners face is ductwork air leaks. These are basically disconnected or poorly sealed channels that allow all that perfectly conditioned air you just paid for to just completely escape into attics, crawl spaces, or wall cavities. It quietly creates those annoying hot and cold spots across your house, all while relentlessly driving up your utility bills month after month. Remember that number I threw out earlier, 30%? A staggering 30% of your conditioned air could be completely wasted right now. 30%. And a lot of times, it's just because that shifting clay soil we talked about physically pulled a duct connection apart over time, and you had absolutely no idea it even happened. Now, let's think about those brutal summer months, when that 80% humidity pushes your system to the absolute brink. Any restricted airflow from dirty filters, blocked vents, or leaky refrigerant lines can literally freeze your AC coils solid. If you feel warm air blowing out of your vents in the middle of July, there's a very solid chance you have a literal block of ice sitting inside your unit. And that matters big time because you risk severe, permanent compressor damage if you don't shut it off immediately. On the other hand, during those freezing winter weeks, gas furnaces face their own unique struggles. Aging components frequently suffer from ignition system or thermocouple failures right when you need the warmth the most. These parts just inevitably wear out over time, and that doesn't just mean a freezing house. It can actually create some real safety concerns, too. Okay, Section 3, the professional service process. Grand HVAC's local approach. Knowing what's going wrong is only half the battle, right? So let's look at the actual solution. This is a super straightforward 3-step method to get relief when you need it most. Step 1, scheduling features a rapid 2-hour emergency dispatch specifically for Upper Arlington. Step 2, you get a real expert diagnosis and a written, completely transparent estimate, so no mystery charges popping up. And Step 3 is repair and testing. Because these technicians arrive in fully stocked trucks tailored to the major brands used in the area, they can actually complete the vast majority of repairs on the very first visit. So instead of sweating or shivering for days waiting on a part, a local pro just finds the root cause and fixes it on the spot. Let's look at Section 4, Codes, Permits, and Standards, the science of climate control. Now, a fast fix is fantastic, but professional servicing requires strict adherence to engineering standards and local laws. Let's define 2 critical industry terms you should absolutely know, Manual J and Manual D. These are complex calculations. Manual J accounts for your specific square footage, insulation, windows, and home orientation to determine the exact equipment size you need. Manual D calculates the optimal ductwork dimensions. These stop contractors from just guessing. It ensures you don't get stuck with an oversized unit that short cycles and leaves your house feeling clammy, or an undersized unit that just runs nonstop until it dies. To put that math into real-world perspective, if you've got an average 1,500 square foot Upper Arlington home, calculations typically call for a 2.5 to 3 ton AC unit. But bump that up to a 2,500 square foot home, and you're looking at a 3.5 to 4 ton system. It really proves that taking the time to match your home's exact specs to the AC tonnage is the only way to effectively control indoor humidity and keep your energy bills in check. But it goes well beyond just sizing things right. There are strict legal requirements here. Technicians absolutely must hold EPA 608 certifications to legally handle and recover refrigerants, which prevents environmental contamination. They have to follow the Ohio Mechanical Code for safe ventilation and gas lines to avoid things like carbon monoxide hazards. And, this is crucial, mandatory City of Upper Arlington permits must be pulled for replacements. Skipping the permit process? That can lead to heavy fines and massive headaches when you eventually try to sell your home. Which brings us to Section 5. Repair versus replacement, making the smart financial decision. This is the big one, right? The ultimate dilemma for any homeowner staring down a broken furnace or a completely frozen AC. Do you just slap another expensive Band-Aid on it? Or do you finally bite the bullet and invest in a new one? Well, let's break down the actual mathematical rule of thumb the pros use. Here is the professional decision matrix. It's pretty straightforward. If your system is under 10 years old, the problems are isolated, and costs are low, repair is usually your best bet. But if your system is over 15 years old, or the repair bill is going to be more than 50% of the cost of a totally new unit, it's time to replace. Also, if your old system relies on that phased-out, incredibly expensive R22 refrigerant, investing in a new high-efficiency model is pretty much the definitive answer there. And look, upgrading isn't just about avoiding those annoying middle-of-the-night breakdowns. Modern systems offer 20 to 40% better efficiency than units built back around 2005. If you look for AC units with a SEER rating above 16 and furnaces with an AFUE rating of 95% or higher, your monthly energy savings can actually offset the entire cost of the new equipment in just 5 to 7 years. It is an investment that literally pays for itself. But regardless of what equipment you have, the golden rule of HVAC is this: regular maintenance catches small problems before they become massive, expensive disasters. By just getting a pro out there twice a year for a tune-up, you can extend the life of your equipment from a pretty standard 10 to 12 years all the way up to 15 or 20 years. It really is the absolute secret to protecting your investment. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder. Is your HVAC system silently wasting 30% of your air right now, or is it fully prepared to handle whatever extreme weather Ohio throws at it next? Seriously, take a walk down to your basement or out to your unit today. Check its age, listen to how it sounds, and ask yourself, is it time to call on a local pro to make sure your home stays perfectly comfortable this season?